Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. We have a great guest. This is a super, super interesting topic. We've got a few things to cover. I'll get to that in a second. But first, the Junior Grandmaster himself, Greg McDaniel, is in the house. He apparently didn't dress up for the show today, but he is. And he's sporting his real estate life gear. You can see the hat. So that way, if he's out in public, he may be assaulted with bats and various other forms of implements if you don't like realtors. So there you go. Greg, what's up today?
What's up, Matt? I'm back alive. And yes, real estate life, rocking my shit from all things real estate. If you guys want a discount code, I think it's like 10 or 20% off. You guys type in Stevie H, Stevie Fuck it.
Wow. You just don't even try.
Just type in Stevie H, guys, and you'll hopefully you'll get it. I mean, if you can't spell like Greg, then that's up to you. But Matt, the reason why I didn't dress up today is because I slept for 11 and a half hours yesterday. I was feeling really weird. My throat started hurting really bad, and I just passed out. I was down and looked at my Fitbit, and it said sleep for 11 hours and 33 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God, I guess my body was really not happy with me yesterday. And so I don't know why I decided not to dress up, because I didn't want to. And damn it, I don't feel well. But I feel better.
And I would complain. About the weather out here, but we have nothing on our guests. So let's bring in our guest now and hear from And please share with us, David. David Barnett is with us today. He is a business brokerage expert as well as a franchise expert. We've got a lot of stuff to get into with David. But before we do that, kind of give us an idea of David, where are you right now? What is it like outside?
Right now, guys, I'm in Moncton, New Brunswick, and we got over 4 feet of snow in the last week and a half. But today, it is 8 degrees above freezing, so it's a beautiful day. People are so accustomed to the cold weather that they're out walking around with T-shirts on and enjoying. Yeah, the mailman has no jacket. Yeah, I just saw him come and go. He doesn't have his coat on. And so everyone's basking in the sun as though it was like summertime in Florida or something. And the kids are having fun with the snow because it's really, packs well in this temperature. It's all slowly melting. So there's a lot of wicked snowball fights going on in the neighborhood.
So I'm a Californian. When I bitch at the idea of it being like 45 degrees, I'm like, too cold.
Which is weird. I mean, we joke around about it, but Greg, I mean, you've been a ski instructor in Tahoe. You grew up in Boulder for a while, so it's not like you don't know snow. But that is nothing. There is that like Colorado and Tahoe, like where it's dry like that. Like you can go out there legitimately in shorts and a t-shirt and be all right. The humidity and stuff on the East Coast that you get, especially, I mean, Dave, you're somewhere close to the ocean, so you've got the humidity and the cold stacked on top of it. We do not envy you at all, is what I'm saying.
No.
Oh yeah. I'm a 20-minute drive from the ocean, so it's always humid here. It's in the wintertime it gets a little dry, but that's just because it's really cold.
Like really cold. It freezes out the humidity. No, go away.
It's like the air cannot hold moisture when it gets to a certain.
it just falls out of the sky and onto the ground. Yeah. All right. Well, so we were introduced through Mark Mawhinney, which if anybody doesn't know who he is a former real estate guy. Now he actually coaches on how to build their business. So that's how we were introduced to David, through a mutual friend. And you're kind of in the same, general region there in Canada, but you have a super interesting background. And I'd like to, have you give people an indication of kind of where you've come from, what you've done in the past. And then let's get into that conversation of how do you generate leads? How do you meet people and network in that high level world of essentially business brokers? You're dealing with nothing but entrepreneurs and business owners. Like, these are not your run of the mill clients, but I know a lot of agents would love to work with them because they're the ones with the high priced either commercial properties or just really nice luxury listings or high end homes. And so those are the kind of the clientele that you work with. So I'm curious kind of what your background is and how you do that.
Yeah, sure. My background is business. I've always been interested in business, and as a child, I had many childhood businesses. And I went to business school because I thought they would teach me how to be a businessman. It took me until my third year to realize that they were teaching me to be a Fortune 500 bureaucrat. And when I got out of university, I actually had to unlearn some of the stuff that I'd been taught. Yeah. And because real world Main Street small and family business do not operate the way that big corporations do, right? There's a lot of differences there. And I had started a business and sold a business, and I had started a new business brokering commercial debt. And if you recall, back in 2008, 2009, we had that big financial crisis.
No, I don't remember that one.
Oh, you don't remember the yeah, Wall Street thing? Well, I'll tell you that stuff on Wall Street that caused the crisis was asset-backed commercial paper, and a lot of that paper was backed by loans. And half the businesses that I was using as sources of capital would package business loans into that paper, that very paper that caused the crisis.
Oh,
and
wow.
when the crisis started, half those sources of capital went out of business. And so that's when I knew that I had to make a change. Now, what's interesting is that when I was brokering commercial debt, I was doing, equipment leases, operating leases, commercial mortgages, just bank lines, bank loans, etc. I would constantly get people who were trying to purchase small businesses coming to me looking for financing. And I remember one day I got a call from a bank down on Main Street, and the banker said, Dave, I've got this lovely couple. They're new to the country. They're trying to buy a convenience store. They have a purchase and sale agreement on a contract that's designed to buy and sell a house. And it says they're going to buy this store and they're going to get 95% financing, and they've got 10 days to arrange it. And just to get a peek into the, one of the other topics we're going to talk about today. So this banker was sending them to me because the banker knew, of course, that those terms were ridiculous. Number one, you weren't going to get that level of financing. You weren't going to get it in 10 days. And clearly they were working with someone who didn't have any idea how to help someone buy a business. Yeah. And so when the financing thing turned out not to be so lucrative anymore because I lost the sources of financing, I decided I would get into business brokerage. And I joined a big international franchise name that has about 300 offices around the world. And the reason why I chose them is because they gave me access to training. And so I actually worked over 2.5 years. I had to attend three different like a week-long training sessions. I had to go to Ottawa, Orlando, and Atlanta. And over the course of 2.5 years, I was able to actually earn a professional designation in business brokerage and learn how to actually help these people. I ran a brokerage office for 3 years. You know from real estate that it can be feast or famine. Mm-hmm. The home selling realtors can usually get a good pipeline going where they've got deals closing every month. Commercial guys sometimes go through these periods of famine where they don't have a deal closing. But I can tell you, for business brokers, I had some clients that I worked on for over 3 years. In my 3.5 years that I was a business broker, I actually went through 3 droughts that were over 9 months long. Good. So it was a nightmarish business to be in. Yeah. And at the end of 2011, I decided I've got to get out of this. And I reformatted, I pivoted, I guess is the new word that people use. I pivoted into a consulting-based practice. So now I work with buyers and sellers, and I have a menu of services, and I basically charge people for what I do. And as a result, I'm helping more people, my customers that end up paying me less, but I'm issuing invoices every week. So I've kicked that cash flow monster, and I'm helping more people, and I'm not working on a contingency basis anymore. So I'm not tied to the success someone has in actually selling a business.
That's a much better way of going about it. I love the whole term of menu of services. Yeah, I think that's a really good way of looking at it. Because a lot of people, if you're on a diet and you only eat broccoli, you only just can have a plate of broccoli. Well, then you can give them that service. But if they're really hungry, they can get a plate of all the different servings of anything that you want. But it's more a la carte, is what you're saying, right? Your services, you can put them all together or take them all away. Take one. Okay.
Yeah. I think I think that trend might be coming to real estate eventually. I don't know how long or what it's going to look like, but I could totally see real estate going that way. I mean, the financial advisor industry is already going that way to a flat fee instead of a percentage, and it's a menu of services, and it's much more of a business consulting model. So that's interesting that you say that, because I could totally see just residential real estate going that way. But you've been through these several pivots, and obviously the people that you're serving, it sounds like in the last pivot it was the same group of people, but when you came out of the crash and you had to get out of one thing and get into a completely different thing, how did you kind of kickstart and start meeting the people that you wanted to work with?
Well, when I started doing business brokerage, it was still very much about this local area. And what's interesting, and I think this is one of the reasons why sometimes real estate agents get drawn into the idea of maybe trying to sell a business, in the jurisdiction that I live in New Brunswick, business brokers actually have to have real estate licenses. And it's a throwback to some really old legislation from back in the day where, 50, 60 years ago, most small businesses owned the property they were located in. And so the law was codified, decades ago. And today, most businesses, many businesses are virtual. They're run out of people's homes. Most businesses that are real world, most of them lease their location, for example. And so, I sold over 35 businesses. I think I only sold 2 or 3 pieces of real estate in all of those deals. So most of the time it was a business changing hands, but the real estate did not. And it was either that they were located on a leased premise, or part of the deal was the seller actually retained the real estate and became a landlord for the new owner.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
depending on how the deal was put together. Sorry, what was your question again?
How did you start go about meeting the people that you wanted to work with? Just the personal
when it was
prospecting side, yeah.
When it was local, it was all about personal networking and prospecting. And now that nowadays I'm not tied to the local market. So, I mean, you mentioned Mark Mawhinney. He does coaching throughout the world. I now do work throughout the world as well. In fact, I'm based in Canada, but 50% of my revenue comes from outside of Canada. So nice. I'm working with people all over the States, Australia, New Zealand, UK, basically anywhere in the English-speaking world. I'm helping people out. And the way that I'm reaching people today is through a lot of these modern tools. So my YouTube channel is instrumental, my blog site, and then appearing on things like this program helps me reach new people who, if they're interested, they'll sign up for my email list or subscribe to my YouTube channel, that kind of thing.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, that's been huge for us. I mean, I was just talking to we just hired a new producer for the show and been breaking her in and filling her in like on the history, like how things got to where they are and stuff. And guys, you'll see more from her. Her name is Leslie. She's based back in Omaha, where I'm from. But I was pointing out to her that so as we grew the show, 2/3 of our audience is on YouTube, which is actually better for us in terms of knowing what they actually like and what they don't like and how they watch and how long they watch and stuff like that. Just the analytics are way better. But for us, YouTube has been kind of like our discovery engine. That's where people find us to begin with, is that they're looking for content that we talk about, but they don't know that they're looking for us. What happens is they find the content that they want, or they click on a video from somebody else that's ranked higher that they think they want, and then YouTube is nice enough to serve one of our videos up right alongside it in the side menu. I mean, that's probably, Greg, on your McDaniel challenge, when you're actually talking to people that watch the show, that's 90% of the feedback you get. That's how they found us.
Yeah, I try to track them and ask them where they find us, and it's like I said, 99.99999% is going to be from YouTube. I'm reading an email from Meg from Washington, or not an email, but a text from her, which I'm going to share with you, Matt. She's been watching our stuff from YouTube, and by the way, she loves our show. It's a kick-ass show. We're awesome and entertaining, by the way, Matt. So
good, thank God.
Yeah, it's a tremendous source of exposure, but you have to do it right. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, you have to put it in the right meta tag, and you got.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, David, what are you doing on your YouTube channel that kind of generates and helps you attract people?
Well, this is going to sound kind of silly, but I think the most important thing is actually putting out something that's quality, because what I've learned is that YouTube, of course, the computer algorithm can't watch and appreciate videos. Yeah. So what the algorithm does is it observes how the humans interact with the videos. And one of the most important things is if people actually stay on the video and watch more than half of it, then YouTube assumes it's good. And that's when it starts to offer them up as recommended videos when you reach the end of another video. So there are all kinds of guys out there who have these courses and programs about how to rank on YouTube, how to get your video up in the search ranking. But as you pointed out, most people will do a search. They'll watch one video and then they'll get into this pathway of recommended videos, right? And so as long as you're putting out good quality content, you're going to end up in their path. I had one client actually in San Francisco, and she did a search for valuing a small business, and she said she found some other guy's video, and at the end there's 12 different little videos that appear on the screen. She said 10 of them were yours. And so, and so she was like, so she started watching and she just ended up in a loop, and she said at the end of each of your videos, more than half of the recommended ones were other videos of yours. And so she watched a dozen of them and then contacted me, and we started doing business.
That is awesome. Hey, real quick, Dave, we got a question from Walter. He's asked a question here in the comments, and I'd love to get your opinion on this. He says, what would you say are good starter ways to get into commercial transactions as a real estate agent?
Oh, I have no idea. I've never been a commercial realtor. It's
well, but yeah, I was going to say, you've run into it from the other side, right? So you're the guy that has to ride in galloping to the rescue when an agent gets into something they shouldn't be getting into. And that's what we can talk about that later. But that's kind of your perspective, right?
Are you familiar with something called the Dunning-Kruger effect?
No.
It's an interesting, it's a term that describes something that it's kind of like this. The less you know about something, the more confidence you have. So if I said, hey, so if I said, hey, the three of us after this show is over, we should build a hot air balloon, right? And I know that the three of us know nothing about this, right? So, but I mean, come on, how hard it can be? It's a basket, a big fabric balloon, and we need like somebody's old barbecue to heat up the air, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To burn the propane, right?
Yeah.
But and so we might say, yeah, building a hot air balloon's easy. And then as we start to work on the project and we realize there's a million kinds of fabric to choose from, and there's all these materials to build the basket, and there's, you got all these safety things to prevent from burning yourself out of the sky, we would soon realize, wow, there's a lot of stuff we don't know. And then our confidence would drop until we invested the time to become true experts. And so this is what was funny. When I was a business broker, I constantly ran into house selling realtors who would list a business for sale.
Yeah.
But I rarely ran into commercial realtors who would list a business for sale. In fact, commercial realtors became my number one source of referral. And it's what it is the Dunning-Kruger effect, because the commercial guys know a little bit more about business, and so they know that they're not qualified to sell a business. And so they knew that they didn't want to do it, and they would refer the business to me. Whereas the home selling realtors would say, hey, I'm licensed to do this. I'll just do it. How hard could it be? And then they would get into a deal or worse, actually execute one. And then there would be fallout afterwards.
Right.
There would be all kinds of aspects that were never dealt with properly. And then there would be like lawsuits and, investigations by the realtor board and all this kind of stuff that is bad.
Yes, that is bad.
That is bad. Those are bad things.
Yeah.
Greg, have you ever dipped your toe into that? I mean, I'm sure you have the connections that if you wanted to.
Hell no, dude.
Yeah, so you knew exactly what you should not go do.
Dude, the CCIM course is basically like a master's degree in commercial real estate. And I sat through one day of it. I'm like, fuck this. I am out of here. And I just spent the rest of the time on my San Diego trip with one of my ex-girlfriends. We just went around, saw the city. And I'm like, this is not happening. That was $1,000 class, dude. And I walked out of that thing. And I'm like, there is no way in hell that I'm going to be able to do this, because every question they asked me was complicated math questions. And I was literally doing this, like, you got over there. Oh, okay, that's the number. I'm like,
but
hang on. Where's my programmable calculator?
What's funny though, like because you need to know where your limits are in your expertise. Because when I was a business broker, sometimes I would be involved in a business and it would be like a local individual landlord, some guy, and they would have like a 5-page lease, and it was pretty simple for any layman to understand. But sometimes there'd be like a corporate landlord or a REIT, one of these big outfits, and there would be like a 50-page lease with all this stuff. And I would actually say to my clients, I'd be like, look, when you buy this business, we're going to need some other expert help just to negotiate this document. And we would sometimes go to a CCIM accredited realtor to say, hey, we need some help understanding this lease, and pay the guy a consulting fee, because I knew that I was an expert about businesses, what businesses are worth and how to transfer businesses. But man, some of those leases are huge, complex documents. I mean, you guys have probably seen this, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just residential contracts have gone from like a 5-page document. I mean, we had a no joke, single print. I had a document come through this thick. A purchase, because it was a relo, and so relo had all their stuff in there. Yeah, dude. I mean, it was a thick document.
Well, let's dip into this real quick, Dave, because I think we touched on this briefly on our initial call when we first met, but you mentioned that one of the common ways that you can accidentally, as an agent, run into this issue is, I think you mentioned farm property. Is that right?
Well, farms are a whole other separate aspect, because in a lot of jurisdictions, there's special tax scenarios with respect to agricultural land. Here where I live, we actually have what we call the FLIP program, Farmland Identification Program. Mm-hmm. And so farmers get a huge tax break on their property tax because the government wants to encourage, local food production.
Sure.
But if somebody were to buy that business and change the nature of the business significantly, the new owner would actually be liable to make up all those tax subsidies for the past decade.
Whoa!
Whoa!
What?
Yeah, so it's a disincentive to buy a farm and turn it into a subdivision, right?
Right.
Because they're trying to disincent people from doing that as well. And so, I've seen people buy an old farm property and then put a machine shop in the old dairy barn. And then all of a sudden they realize they've crossed the tax man and they've got this incredible tax bill that has to be dealt with because they're no longer a significantly involved in agriculture, for example. So agriculture as a business broker, that's even something I would shy away from, because there are several guys around who are specialists in agricultural properties. And even within the agriculture, we have a supply management system here where I live in New Brunswick for dairy. So there's like a quota system. And that in itself, selling a dairy farm, there's like a handful of people that are expert at that. And most of them
that's
dairy farmers.
Consulting, that's like the holy grail, is you just keep, as long as the market is big enough, you just keep niching down so that you're literally the only one of a handful of guys that can even do what you do. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about go back on the commercial agents, because you said you developed kind of a really nice network of people that would just refer you all the time. Was that just one, like, did it just snowball? Was it something that you strategically set out to do? Like, how did that develop?
Well, I set out to meet these people because in any market, there's a handful of commercial guys that seem to have their name on everything. And not all of the commercial guys play with the MLS systems, right? A lot of them do exclusive listings. And so I would go out and meet these guys and I would explain exactly what it is that I did. And then here's the thing, that because whenever you're talking to someone, you always have to be listening to WIIFM, right? What's in it for me radio. And I would say to these guys, look, if you meet someone who has a business and they own the property and they want to sell their business, refer them to me. And here's what I'm going to do. I'll pay you a referral fee if I happen to sell it all because you gave the business to me. But in all likelihood, I'm going to sell the business and not the property. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why that is. But it's easier for a buyer to buy a business and be a tenant than it is to buy a business and a building at the same time. It has to do with how much down payment you have and how risky the bank thinks that transaction is going to be. Once you're a tenant for a couple of years and you can show the bank that you're capable of running the business and you can have 2 years of profitable statements, they'll be more than happy to give you a mortgage on the building because now they know you can actually run it, right? So what I would then do is I would say, look, Mr. Commercial Realtor, you send the business to me. I'll sell the business, and then I'll send the seller back to you. Because if the guy doesn't want to be a landlord, guess what? Now we have a commercial property with a lease in place, and 50 people that want to buy that, right? And so it was a really good working relationship. The commercial realtors would send people to me. I'd sell the business, send the seller back to those guys, and then if the seller wanted to, they'd sell the commercial property. I'll give you an example of a case where that would have worked really well for someone. It was a guy, he had a lighting showroom, a lighting design center, and he owned a strip mall. There were 9 units in the strip mall, and he went to this home selling realtor to sell his business. And the guy put the business up for sale, and it said 9-unit strip mall with a lighting showroom, right? And so it sat there on the market for 2 years. Nobody bought it. Why? Because nobody who has an interest in running a lighting showroom would have the capital to make a down payment on a strip mall. And nobody who's interested in owning a strip mall and has the money to buy that has any interest in owning a lighting center.
Right.
Right.
So they're trying to market it to completely different people all in one package.
Yeah, so by tying the two things together and not being flexible, they actually exclude both camps of buyers, and the thing never sold. And what's really unfortunate is eventually the guy ended up closing the lighting center. So all the goodwill built up over about 3 decades of being in business just evaporated.
Holy
at a
cow.
big liquidation sale. And then, of course, instantly there are buyers who want to buy the strip mall,
Right.
right?
And that's
Because,
too bad.
lots of people in commercial real estate understand a strip mall, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's really, really interesting. Yeah, it's and part of marketing is you're trying to put something into a box that people understand, right? And anytime you like step out, either if you're going to step outside the box, there has to be a good reason for it, and it has to like expand the market. And they stepped outside of the box of what people understood into a way, but they stepped out of it in such a way that they completely obliterated. They didn't market to anybody. They tried to market to. They did what was easiest for them, essentially. But that's really interesting. All right, so let's talk about franchising, because we talked a little bit about this when we first were introduced. So just as a preface to kind of why we wanted to have this conversation for those of us that are listening, if you're watching on Facebook Live, guys. So if there's the big trend in real estate right now, especially, go to Keller Williams, listen to Gary Keller talk, and the whole big push is expansion. And what they mean by that is taking your system, the thing that's working for you in a local professional service firm like a real estate office, and then franchising it out effectively, in franchising in everything but name only, and franchising it out and having someone in another state, another city, or whatever join your team, right? Or there's some people that are actually getting into straight up franchising where they're selling their entire business system or their brokerage or whatever, along with a licensing for their name, to use their name, so that you can open up, X brokerage or X whatever in your city, right? So it's yours, but you're running their systems under their name or their network. So, David, you've been on both sides of this. You've worked in the franchising industry. You've written a book about franchising and like just what to look out for when you're the person that's kind of going into it. And so in real estate, that would be the real estate agent that wants to be successful, that's looking at all these teams going, hey, I'm being recruited, I'm getting phone calls, they're making all these promises, they're going to train me, they're going to give me leads, they're going to give me systems, I can just plug right in and I can be successful. Exactly the same as what it's the same franchise pitch to someone buying a Subway or anything else. It's, hey, plug into our systems, we've got all the training, everything already works, you just step in and do it. So what have you seen? Like, where does that go well, and where does it go wrong, just in the franchising industry in general?
Well, I've seen a lot of successful people in franchises, and I've seen a lot of really awful stuff in the world of franchising. And the stuff that's really awful happens when the franchisee puts themselves in a position where the franchisor has incredible leverage over them. So I'll give you an example. You talked about Subway. A lot of these restaurants, what they're doing today is the franchisor will lease the location, then sublet to the franchisee. And the idea is that the franchisee now has put up all the money for leaseholds and equipment. And if that person can't make it, the franchisor can then get control of the property and then find somebody else, right?
Okay.
So one guy puts up hundreds of thousands of dollars and he fails, and the franchisor then gets control of the location. They settle with the bank for pennies on the dollar, and then they go and sell the franchise to some other guy, right? And so there's a lot of horrible examples of that kind of thing going on. What I tell people is that if you legitimately want to play with somebody else's rule book, if you need somebody to tell you what to do, franchises can be a great model. You just have to look at what exactly are you paying and what do you get for it, and how can the rules change down the road. So in one of these arrangements that you're talking about, is there an upfront fee? Is there a royalty fee? And is there something in the agreement that says that the franchisor can change the nature of the relationship as time goes on? I have a client right now that I've been working with. They own a franchise, and the franchisor grew all across Canada, and they have no more markets to go into, so now their growth is limited. And what they've now turned to doing is creating new products and services to sell to their existing franchisees, and the franchise agreement says that they have the ability to force the franchisees to buy them. So they've come out with a magazine, and they've come out with some different products, and now they're telling these people, you have to buy this from us. And this is where they're getting their growth. And the local franchisees are saying, geez, I don't want to buy all this stuff, but I'm forced to, right? And if I can't just back out of the deal because I've signed a personal guarantee on the deal. So if I just shut down, most franchises, if you just shut down a franchise, they could actually sue you for the balance of royalties that would remain under the life of the agreement.
Whoa. So all the leverage is on their side. If they can, I mean, it's one thing for them to be able to change the contract and add on, ticky-tack fees and little profit maximizers and stuff like that. That's interesting. I don't see anybody in real estate. I haven't heard of anybody doing that. I guess where we deal with that is the commission splits and the fact that but they would have to be renegotiated, right? And so there's
If I was helping someone look at one of these opportunities, what I would say is how is the exit? How do you get out? So if you decided you didn't like this arrangement anymore, can you simply back out? Or are there things like non-competition clauses in this agreement that say that, if you're going to get out, you have to leave real estate for a year, right? So you want to know that if things aren't going as promised, that you have a way out. Now, if you can get into it and they deliver on what they say they're going to do, then maybe you can have a very fruitful relationship. And if you know that you can always get out an exit or a back door, then, the risk is limited. But in my experience with franchises, what I say to people in my 2015 book, Franchise Warnings, what I say to people is when you buy a franchise, you may not actually be owning a business. You're just kind of leasing one. And you get to run it and make money with it until the end of the franchise term. And then, what happens? I've seen situations where people have had their territories divided, where the franchisor has said, "You've done really well here. We think it can support 2 people."
Surprise!
Yeah, surprise. We're taking half your territory and giving it to someone else.
That with Boomtown in the real estate industry. Then people will know what I'm talking about when I say that. But that makes total sense. Yeah, there's a lot of that where something will come out and they'll sell it as exclusive, and then surprise, it's no longer exclusive in your market.
Well, I see that. Here in Canada, we have a lot of Tim Hortons, and the newer franchisees have. The newer franchisees will have like a location franchise, and the older franchisees will have territory franchises. And so they're supposed to have the rights to all the Tim Hortons within a certain city, let's say. And then what will happen is the franchisor will sign a deal with like a gas retailer saying, we're going to put Tim Hortons in all of your locations across the country. And then all of a sudden, these guys who have these territory franchises find competing brand locations within their territory. And then they look at the fine print and find out that, actually they can do that to us. And so you really have to know what risks exist because once, especially with something like a restaurant franchise or anything that requires investment, once you borrow money at the bank or once you invest in equipment or leaseholds or property, I mean, you're committed. One of the biggest things that the people in the franchise industry like to say is that the success rates in franchises are higher than independent business. And so here's a thought exercise that I like to do with people.
Okay.
Anybody can go out. You can go down to Kinko's and you can get some business cards printed and be in business, right? Anybody can be into business. So is it fair to say that you could open a business of some kind with like $100?
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Okay. Could you get into a franchise with $100?
Right. Yeah. Not even close. No. So the real question is, of the people that can and do invest $100,000 into a business, how many of those fail independently versus how many succeed in a franchise? Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
And when you get into a franchise, typically you have like a 5-year franchise agreement with renew options, or maybe it's longer. But when you lease commercial property, for example, a lot of these storefront franchises like restaurants, typical commercial lease might be a 5-year term. Right. Okay. So I've run into plenty of clients who wanted to sell their businesses and they were franchises that were losing money, but the people who had bought into the franchise had personal wealth sufficient to cover those losses. And they realized it was less painful to operate a money losing business until the end of the lease than it would be to pull the plug. Because then the franchisor would sue them for royalties. The landlord could sue them for unpaid rent, right? It's easier just to lick your wounds and take the kicks till you get to that 90 days before the 5-year anniversary and then let the landlord know, I'm closing. And so that's one of the reasons why they claim this higher success rate is because the people that buy them have more wealth to fall back on and they're not, $100 startups.
Yeah, which that makes sense. All right. So So you mentioned that, like, at least from the, like, when it works, when it's a great arrangement, it's actually easier for the person to get out, or at least, you want to look at the exit plan. That's one of the big struggles in real estate is it is so easy to exit that then the problem becomes, okay, well, if I'm going to expand, if I'm going to hand over all of my systems and I'm going to set them up with like a lead generation system that works and a marketing system that actually generates real clients that they can work with, like that's the struggle for most independent agents. That's why the independent solo agent fails. They can't generate clients. So let's say you hand over everything and you train this person. What usually happens is that you end up training your competition because it's so easy to get out, right? So now the discussion is, well, how do you provide enough value so that even if it's easy to leave, they want to stay, right? So what have you seen from the franchises that have the best relationships between the franchisor and the franchisee? Like, what's that relationship like, and what types of value are they providing that makes people want to stay around even when it's easy to leave?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It has to do with value. If the franchisees think that they're getting good value for the money that they're paying, then they will stick around. And I think that the industry you need to put under the microscope is hairdressing.
Really?
Because if you think about, if you look at the hairdressing business, there's two types of shops. There's the shop, your big national brand name shop where the hairdressers are all fresh out of beauty school and they're being paid an hourly wage, right?
Okay.
And they aspire to go where? They aspire to go to the other shops, which are chair rental shops, where they basically build their own business, right? Does this sound familiar? Like they build their own business, but the owner of the shop provides them with a place to do business that has the decor and the waiting area and the upfront receptionist taking calls and making appointments. And they typically pay like a flat weekly fee to operate their own little business within that business. And so every beauty salon owner will tell you that at some point, one of these people will decide to go and operate from their basement, right?
Right.
They'll think that they've got their clientele built up to the point where they can just go and operate from their basement. And sometimes it works for them and sometimes it doesn't. But the beauty salon owners are always thinking, we have to make sure that we have an attractive environment with nice music. And, we have to really show these hairdressers that their clients are going to love coming here. And so it's the same kind of thing with these real estate franchises. If the franchisees aren't happy, then they'll start to leave. And so, I've never been a home selling realtor before, but I would imagine that what I would want would be a constant flow of leads, but the leads would have to be quality such that they actually convert it. And if you can't convert the leads, maybe part of that's the salesperson's problem. Maybe part of it is the quality of the leads. But if the salesperson can't convert, they're not going to last in the industry anyway. If they're part of the system.
9 times out of 10, a lot of the times is that the fact that the agents don't look at it that way. They look at it as the one and done, give me what I need. And I think the quality of the lead is always has always been the problem, will always be the problem, because people expect it. Like if I'm going to go out there and advertisement for this pen, well, David, if you want to buy this pen, you're going to go buy this pen because you have a need for it. Real estate is a much different beast. It's a longer term. It's, what is it, Matt? Every 33 online leads, you'd get from a different system turns into one deal, be it to nurture them for a long period of time.
Yeah. I mean, it's for Jeff Cohn's team, it's 150 calls to produce a deal, one closed deal.
And so, I mean, it's very different. And I need to understand. I think people understanding that is critical, which they don't 9 times out of 10 because, real estate agents were the smartest things on earth.
Well, and when somebody goes into a system and an opportunity like that, if they're faced with those statistics, I'm going to get 150 leads and I'm going to have to talk to 150 people to eventually get one deal to close. I could see some people looking at those numbers and saying, you know what, maybe I'm just going to go and join another church and, take my kid to Little League and hand out more cards and do what, realtors have been doing for 100 years. Right.
Yeah. I can see him joining 10 churches.
Man, that's a lot to run around on Sunday morning.
two services per day. Let's do this, people.
That's right. Oh, that's funny though. Yeah, that makes sense though. So yeah, and that is kind of the holy grail, at least in terms of like the agent going into something and going, okay, if I'm going to step into this, like this is the value I expect from you. Yes, what they would like is that higher quality lead. I don't think the industry has really figured out how to deliver that. Now, if you look at the hairdressing industry, obviously Supercuts it's called advertising, right? It's brand advertising. So you have a constant flow of walk-ins. So you can literally just plug someone in a chair and say, hey, just work with the people that walk in the door, and that's it. Like, that's the way realtors wish it was. Sadly, it's not. Right now, there's a lot of reasons for that, but ultimately, I think that's what they want. So in the absence of that, it becomes one of those things where the value proposition that a lot of top agents give to people that are like looking to franchise with them or join their team is, well, I will train you on how to do this. The problem is they do not want to do it. And so they do not want to sign up for training to be trained to do something they don't want to do, which is to go out there and convert the leads, right? So it's an interesting dynamic, right?
You know what? I know exactly what you're talking about, because when I owned my business brokerage office, one of our most effective methods of getting leads into the office were what we call drop cards. So we would go out on a Sunday night, and we had little cards that were in an envelope, and we would go with a little bit of painter's green tape, the stuff that doesn't quite stick very well to things. And we would just go stick them on the doors of businesses, and inside it would just say, hey, we're business brokers and we have a bunch of people that want to buy a business, and if you've been thinking it might be time to sell, just give me a call, right? And it was very effective, and the people who returned the calls were certainly motivated to at least learn how we helped people. And when I went out on a Sunday night, I could easily deliver a couple hundred of these in a couple of hours. Now, do you think I could get any of my associate brokers to do this?
Nope. Not a chance in hell.
Of course not. Right? Because I don't know.
It works, guys. All you have to do is do this. Hell no. That's work. That's a four-letter word to me.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I would do this a couple of Sunday nights every quarter. And those notes, some people would take that note and they'd read it and they'd be like, oh, well, you know what? Not today. And they would like stick it somewhere. And I would get calls for a year after from some of these businesses where I'd left these little drop notes. And I loved the phone calls because they were taking action to talk to me. So it wasn't like I was cold calling, businesses, bugging them saying, do you want to sell? They actually had made the decision that they at least wanted to sit down and have a conversation with me. Right? That's a qualified lead. They qualified themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yes, and that's the thing, is the problem with in real estate with something like that is that people know what they think they know what you do, right? So then they assume everyone's the same, and you have no leverage to like get them to call just to learn about what you do. Whereas you're a very niche industry, so it's very easy to get that kind of curiosity-driven call, like, oh, I wasn't aware that this was possible. Like somebody might want to buy my business, right? They might want to, they might have been thinking like they might have this magic pipe dream of cashing out, but it's not like a reality until you show up on their doorstep and say, hey, like there's people that might want to buy your business. So I can definitely see that being very effective, which is, it's funny how in that high echelon, you're dealing with entrepreneurs and business owners. It's funny how something simple, just drop dead simple, like a note dropped off at their business door, would be that effective. I love it.
Well, and it was very effective. And today, it's almost like what I do on YouTube is kind of the same thing, because people don't go looking for information about selling their business or buying their business unless it's something they've thought of. Right. Yeah. So just the people who end up on the channel and end up subscribing to my channel are also sort of qualifying themselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, makes a big difference in those terms. But okay, so we talked a little bit about kind of the like how to maintain those, how the best franchisors maintain like good long-term relationships with their franchisees and stuff like that. Let's look at it from the perspective of the person that's looking at franchising out their business. So they have this amazing local business that works, whether it's a professional service firm, whether it's a convenience store, a sandwich shop, whatever the case is. What does that road to franchising look like from that person's perspective? And how are they going about figuring out, how do I create something that other people want to plug into?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at a workshop seminar that I was presenting about a year ago when I said something that I thought was awesome, so I wrote it down. I said, as a 30-year, I said,
Greg has those moments. He just doesn't like to write them down.
40 years ago, everyone wanted to own a McDonald's because they thought it would make them rich, right? And today, everyone wants to be Ray Kroc.
Right.
Because they think it's going to make them rich. And so you have all these people spinning off these franchises. And I worked once with a guy who was in the gourmet burger industry, and he had a franchise concept that he was trying to sell. And I said to him, the most important thing ever is that the first 4 or 5 people have to be out of the park successes. because everyone after that is going to look at those guys as the model. They're going to say, how did you guys do? Right.
Mhm.
And so they've got to be the right candidate. They can't just be someone who can fog a mirror and has the check. Right. It's got to be the right candidate, and the system has to be proven, and you have to make sure that these guys make money. And at the end of the day, what ended up happening was the first franchisees all failed. And it was a combination of picking some of the wrong candidates, but also the system was set up incorrectly to maximize profits for the franchisor at a time when the franchisees wouldn't be able to survive under that scenario. And so the whole thing just kind of fizzled out, and you see it a lot. You see new little regional franchises get up and running with 5, 6, maybe 10 locations, and then they kind of fizzle out and die. And it's because the initial franchisees need to be making money hand over fist. Those first people who bought McDonald's franchises way back in the 1960s or whatnot, they all ended up being millionaires. That is what solidified McDonald's future. It's when people learned all I have to do to be rich is buy one of these things. That's when they won, and everyone wanted to own one. So if somebody has a system in real estate and they want to franchise it out, they've got to be really picky about who those initial franchisees are, and they have to make sure that those people are making money, because they're going to be the ambassadors forever, right? Even after they're gone, other new potential franchisees will find out who they were, and they'll talk to them. And in my book, Franchise Warnings, I actually say to people, if you're looking at a franchise system, get in your car, visit existing locations in other cities, and talk to owners face-to-face, because they'll tell you stuff face-to-face that they will not put in writing and they will not tell you on the phone.
Interesting.
Because when you appear in front of someone and you say, I'm thinking about spending money like you did to open a similar location, then face-to-face is easier for someone to have empathy with you than if you're just a voice over the phone. And if they have regrets about the investment they made, they're going to be more willing to share those regrets and concerns with you in a face-to-face encounter, because then they're going to empathize with you. You're now a fellow human, not just a voice on the phone, right? And if they do have negative things to say about the franchise, they're not going to put it in writing, because they don't want to end up on the naughty list with the franchisor, right? I had a good buddy of mine named Rick who worked for a restaurant franchise company, and they actually graded their franchisees every year. They put them, the Boston Consulting Matrix with the stars and the dogs and the question marks and the cash cows. They would put their franchisees into the boxes, and every year they looked at who the dogs were, and if the same names appeared more than 2 years in a row, they would initiate a program to get that person out of the system.
Wow.
And so they would either put pressure on them to try to sell, or they would be calling them saying, look, we got new applicants. Do you think it's time to get out? Because we got new people that might want to buy. And they would actively try to churn those franchisees out of their network, because they didn't want persistent poor results to create bad apples who would start to sour the other, relationships.
If we did that in a real estate company, you know how fast people would be kicked out of the office.
Oh my God. Yeah, I was gonna say the Jack Welch, like the bottom 10% approach. Like you keep cycling through until you went down from 100 agents to 10. That's what would happen. All right. So one last question on this topic. So I'm curious, really, and I have kind of a working theory about this as it relates to real estate expansion and franchising and stuff like that. My theory is that there is a sweet spot above which you cannot take a certain percentage of the gross profit out of anyone else's business and expect them to stay in your network or affiliated with you. So my question is there like a benchmark or anything like that from other like franchises and other industries where they go, yeah, we really can't take more than, let's say, 6% of somebody's, revenue before they start to expect way more from us than we can provide? Or what, is there anything like that? Any benchmarks for that?
There aren't really, but I've seen different models. So, for example, in food franchises, there's typically a percentage of sales. And so whether or not you're making money as a franchisee, it's almost like another level of tax, really, because it comes right off the top. It doesn't matter how well you're doing. You're paying that percentage of sales. In other industries where people want to grow fast, like in my business brokerage, it was a franchise, but I paid a flat fee every month to be a part of the franchise network. And for that money, talk about value, I got a world-class CRM that was integrated into the advertising websites that we used. So I actually saved money and in labor because I was a part of the franchise, and I got advertising automatically on some of those networks, so I didn't have to pay for those websites. So if I added up the hours that my admin would have had to spend putting things on websites and the monthly fees of being part of those different websites, I actually got a savings by being part of that network. So to your point about value, I never had any incentive at all to leave that network. And then on top of it, I got the networking aspect where I could talk to other business brokers, and we talked with each other, the office owners, all the time to help fill in gaps with expertise and or knowledge on specific industries. And so it was a real win-win. And the only people who ever left that company were people who legitimately, their business just wasn't making it and they had to leave the industry altogether. No one ever left that franchise to go be an independent because they were getting the value that they needed. So flat fees is another thing. I know that you could certainly say, I'm going to take a percentage after you've earned X number of dollars. So I'm going to take a percentage of your commissions after you've brought in 50 grand for yourself, right? Because, we understand that you got to eat, right? So, and that would be very attractive to that real estate agent because they say, wow, you respect the fact that I need to make a certain income in order to pay all my bills every year before I really start to enjoy, the added earnings. And then I'm going to share that with you. Right. Yeah. And it shows that you got the franchisor has confidence in what they're delivering because they're saying, look, we know that for us to eat, you got to eat plus, and we have no problem, believing that we're going to help you do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Yeah. So the first two options is the evolution of what we've done with my business partner, Jeff Cohn, and the nationwide expansion. Like at first it was, hey, we'll put up all the capital. Let's get you set up with like the best CRM on the market. Like we'll do the Google AdWords spend. We'll put up all that upfront money and work and training and all the other stuff. And then we'll take a, reasonable percentage of the sales, right? The gross commissions. We weren't crazy about how that worked out. Jeff, especially, just the ratio of how much money and time he had to lay out in ratio to the return just wasn't worth it. So that's exactly what he did. He moved to that next step, which is the flat rate, right? It's called flat rate expansion. So you guys can check that out on eliterealestatesystems.com. But so flat rate expansion is, hey, you get, for X dollars a month, you get not only the training, the benefits of being in the network, the consulting, the coaching, the yada yada, but then like just exactly like you said, the world-class CRM, like one of the best CRMs in the business, you actually get that included in the flat fee that you pay us. So yeah, we've been down this road, and maybe Jeff is even more brilliant than I thought because he came up with that idea for what he called flat rate expansion. I did not think it would work. I thought it was just another form of business coaching by another name. So it's interesting that you say like that's exactly what worked for you in the business brokers world was that exact same model, which is pretty cool. So I'll just pass that along.
But it exists in other models because there's a pita restaurant franchise here in Canada that uses that exact model. They go with the flat fee approach. And the reason why they grew so quickly is because franchisees said, wow, I can make as much money as I want. And I just pay you X per month. Now what's happening though is now that they've made this huge expansion, upon renewal, they're changing the deal. So because upon renewal of the franchise, they can create a new contract, right? Once your franchise agreement's up, the contract's up.
Yeah, so you can't get away with that too much in real estate. They'll just go off and join another brokerage or leave your expansion team or whatever. Yeah.
Well, exactly, right.
They're not locked into like different. A physical location with a lease and a trademark name, and you know what I'm saying. Like they have customers, but they're not really their customers. It's the franchise and the location of a franchise customer. So yeah, that makes sense as far as why they have the leverage to change deals midstream. Yeah.
Well, it's like I said, it's at the end of the franchise agreement, right? So so when you get into one of these franchise deals, if you have a 10-year term, for example, and you need to make sure that you're going to get back all of your investment in that 10-year period and you're going to make your profit for yourself. Because at the end of the 10 years, you really don't know what's going to happen. A lot of the times, for example, with restaurants, they come out with a new style or image package. And so it's almost like you have to build a new restaurant because they've updated their look, they've updated their furniture, and the franchisor wants to make sure that all the units are up to snuff and they look great. And they probably have lots of stats showing that it works for the customers, they like it. But for some of the business owners, business owners tend to be a breed of people who value independence and freedom and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so the franchisees that I've met that have become disenfranchised, they become angry, are they get fed up because they realize they're in a situation where they can be told what to do. And some people just have a hard time, dealing with that. But that's what being a part of a franchise is you're becoming a cog in someone else's wheel that they're building. And they promise that you're going to do well in the ride. What I believe is a lot of the times is that franchising is used because a business wants to grow but doesn't have access to the capital. So by using a franchise model, they can find individuals to become the sources of capital to grow the network, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at franchise restaurants versus a chain, there's a couple of prominent names out there that are chains. Those guys end up on the stock exchange to raise capital, for example, to go and finance new restaurants. Whereas other people, they end up doing franchising so they can get some guy to put up his retirement savings on the line.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, and that's totally true in real estate because we don't want to lay out the capital to go get an office space, open up our own brokerage, hire our own staff, and then bring agents on. We want the agents to come on at their own risk, and then we hope to get them to invest the time to get the commissions fast enough to pay off. So, yeah, that's interesting. That's all right. This has been a lot of fun for me, Greg. I know you're like Greg doesn't run as much in the team expansion world as I do. So like this is super interesting to me. And I know this is going to be like there's a lot of stuff that I can take back to the work that I do with Jeff and a lot of the guys that I talk to around the country that are very, very like they're knee deep in trying to figure out this stuff of like, how do I bring agents on? How do I grow? How do I not put all my own capital and all my time at risk? Right. But still grow beyond this, office of 15 or 20 or 25 people that I have here. So yeah, this is super interesting. So I know you mentioned that the book, I know the book is on Amazon, Franchise Warning, so people can check that out. But where can people go, David, to really connect with you and link up and keep you in mind for the future and for business broker transactions and all that good stuff?
Yeah, my central location is davidcbarnett.com. And I've got websites for people that want to buy a business, want to sell a business, but you can get access to all of that from davidcbarnett.com. And if people get onto my email list, I put out a new video every week. Nice. And it's always based on questions that people send to me based on deals that they're doing or what have you. So, and that's how I built up a library of like over 200 YouTube videos, is because every week I put out a new one. And the people that are on my mailing list get to see the videos before they're released publicly. And they also get, from time to time, I do special promotions. I've got a couple of online courses. Like I've got my day-long business buyer workshop. I've converted into an online course, and people all over the world sign up and do that.
Wait. The day-long business buy, is that a workshop where people fly into you and spend like all day with you just in consulting, learning how to like brokerage business?
It's a 9-hour program, and I've been doing it since 2009. Okay. And it was nobody flew in. It was always local people, but I turned it into an online program, and now people can do it in their own home and go through the modules, etc. Yeah. And then equally an exit planning one, which is a half-day course. And a lot of the time when I was working, when I work with people to sell a business, they have a lot of problems in the business. And so my new online course that's coming out here shortly is build a business that people will want to buy. And it's all about, I have a 13-step methodology that I use to help people implement systems and organization into a business to achieve what Michael Gerber talked about in his book, The E-Myth. And so that's the latest one that's actually going to come out at the end of March.
Very cool, man. That's the exact same progression of what I've worked on with Jeff. So he has a one-day team building workshop where people fly in from all over the country to the flagship office in Omaha. We just filmed it earlier this year and turning it into an online course. Yeah, so I love it. It's on the same progression, which is very, very cool. So yeah, we'll keep in touch and let us know how that's working. And I'd love to get any feedback on that. But Greg, why don't you remind us real quick of how people can connect with you?
Guys, go ahead and follow me on Facebook. That'd be amazing. I am at my limit of friends of 5,000. So guys, follow me. Go hit that little follow button on the bar there. And
sadly, if you don't, you'll get lost in Facebook friend purgatory, where Greg has about 1,000 friend requests stacked up. So if people defriend him, then he goes and a select few, a chosen few, will receive his friendship on Facebook.
You don't know how close you are. I actually have 915 friend requests. 915 friend requests I can't get to, guys. So if you don't want to be in purgatory, you jump on the fun train immediately and follow me. You'll see me, Matt and I you'll get alerted when I go live and do the shows with Matt for Real Estate Uncensored. You also get alerted when I go live for my 4:30 show, Monday through Thursday, interviews, and then live prospecting. So don't miss out. Follow me,
right.
Damn it. And call Matt. He loves phone calls.
Yes. Anybody that's watched the show knows that I do not like phone calls. I only make scheduled outgoing calls. Thank you very much. But I am. You are welcome to follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I am pursuing results across all platforms, and I do welcome the occasional Facebook message if you have any questions about marketing, vendors, content, scale, systems, whatever. Any of the stuff that we talk about on the show or that I talk about in my Facebook lives and what I'm doing in the podcasting side of things. So, guys, we welcome that. Send your questions, send your comments, send your whatever. Go to iTunes, make sure to subscribe there, leave us a rating and review, subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're putting videos up there constantly, 3 times a week as well.
Well, I'll be switching over to Zoom pretty soon, so we'll be going live on Facebook and on YouTube simultaneously. So whatever your drug of choice is, you can definitely start sniffing it. But Paul is watching us right now. I did a McDaniel challenge with him. Paul, what up, bud? Hey, he said great info. So David, you made it rain for him. And Walter has a great idea to have people. You can train people and not have them be your competition down the road. He says have kids. But disclaimer, it may take 18 years.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's
a very
that was
very
Greg's
traditional
strategy.
business model.
Yeah, that is a very traditional business model. All right, guys. Well, with that said, we are at bingo. We're going to put a nice little ribbon and pack this one away. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for interacting on Facebook. We appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the show. We've got a great guest coming up on Monday. We've got Dr. Deborah Dupree, and she's going to talk about sales and how to do it more authentically, positive persuasion, and overcoming fear. So, guys, if you have any type of call reluctance, if you're afraid to set foot in a client's home or a prospect's home for a listing appointment, you're going to want to tune in on Monday. That's at 3 o'clock. On Facebook Live right here. So, guys, thank you so much. And until then, enjoy the weekend.
Yep, guys, we absolutely love you. See you later. Bye-bye.
See ya.